Hello everybody, it's AJ with the TMG channel. Thanks for joining me. Nice to see you. This is a bonus update to my Nine Hells Devils series, and this time we're taking a trip through the portal back to the Nine Hells and into the first layer of Dis and the second layer of Manuros, which both form part of a super large cavern, which is a subplane in its own right. It has its own rules and regulations, its own physical laws, both of them, and they are very distinct environments, even though they occupy the same airspace. They are separated by the river Styx and a sort of lake, and there are a couple of lakes in Dis. One of them is a large poisonous lake with the Iron City of Dis in the middle. So Dis and the city Dis have the same name, and they are ruled over by the Lord Dispater, who is a kind of an archduke. A yeah, he's an archdevil, and Dispater has he basically hangs out inside the Iron Citadel, and he never really leaves, and he seems to spend most of his time in a war with his arch rival. And I'll get into more of that later on when I'm talking about the plane of Dis itself. But yeah, inside the Iron Citadel, the Erinyes hang out mostly. They don't really spend a lot of time outside of the Iron Citadel when they're not at war or hunting for targets or out actively fighting in the war games up on the surface of Avernus. And yeah, the city of Dis is a really miserable place. There's zombies, garbage choked streets with rot grubs and black puddings, iron barred cells full of chains and torture implements. The palace is surrounded by trees of iron. There's caverns underneath known as the pits of Dis where prisoners fight for edible garbage that falls through the streets. It's really unpleasant, and chokingly hot, and the air is a poisonous fume. It's because of the poisonous waters of the lake, that the entire plain of Dis is mildly poisonous, and the air itself is unbreathable by mortals. So you're going to need something to breathe the air for the most part. Otherwise, you are going to get sick and you are going to die, probably in the form of levels of exhaustion that you accumulate as you go. Okay, but today we're going to be talking about the Bearded Devil. And the Bearded Devil mainly occupies the surface of Avernus when they're up there playing war games, and the layer of Dis, where they surround the city of Dis in massive barrack cities. Pretty much every area is occupied by their habitation and their training grounds. And Manuros, which the twisting maze of Manuros is also choked with bearded devils who are also playing their war games. Kind of like that's where they practice their city warfare, streets and stuff. Now, warfare, when you talk about the bearded devils, they are the ones that really, as an adventurer, if you are entering into the Nine Hells and seeking to go any further, you are going to come across so many bearded devils that you have to fight that they really should be what you think about when you think of fighting with devils. The bearded devils are the ones, they're the shock troops, they are the special forces, they're the armies of hell, they're the bulk of the troops of the armies of hell. And although they take many variant forms, they all have certain things in common. For the most part, I could talk about where they come from. So most of the bearded devil stock are taken from the mortals which were once hobgoblins, or the goblinoids, who have fought for an eternity. And yeah, we can go into more of that later when we get on to basic cosmology. But they are risen up from the ranks of lemures. They have been imps and spined devils, and they have risen up to the rank of bearded devil through sheer ferocity. So for them, violence is their entire way of life. They spend most of their time, when they're not fighting others, torturing and maiming mortals and lemures. So they take those who have been dragged down to hell, or they take those who are stuck in hell, and they practice their wares, which is pain and torment and how best to inflict hideous wounds. They favour a really nasty glaive. It's a magical weapon. It's +5 to hit with a reach of 10 foot. They love to rank up shoulder to shoulder and basically present these glaives as a slicing wall, which you have to get through in order to hit their ranks, whereupon they will tear you apart with their beards and claws. They hit one target for 8 slashing damage, and if the target is a creature other than an undead or a construct, it must succeed on a DC 12 Constitution saving throw or lose 5 hit points at the start of each of its turns due to infernal wounds. So these are burning, sizzling, toxic wounds that infected and just won't close of their own accord. Each time the devil hits the wounded target with this attack, the damage dealt by the wound increases by 5. Any creature can take any action to staunch the wound with a successful DC 12 Wisdom Medicine check. The wound also closes if the target receives magical healing. So these are wounds which, like, they're serious, they're nasty. So they cut through armor and things like that. This is one of the things about hit points is you basically have to be reduced to 0 before it starts to do physical wounds. Not so with the glaive. So you can imagine this is the equivalent of a vorpal weapon which cuts through armor and wounds you with every strike. So they're designed to maim and take out targets and weaken them, to open them up and let the poison seep in. The beards that the bearded devils are famous for, they take on many forms, but they always have the similar sort of traits. They can take on the form of barbed, flailing tentacles or snake-like Medusa nests that sprout from their neck and chin. They sometimes take on the form of actual hair, which is hideous and filthy and full of barbs. And they can also take on the form of spines or maws or teeth or writhing maggots, which infestoon their necks. It's always the same sort of thing. And the effect is it's a +5 to hit, reach of 5 foot, so it's close and personal. One creature takes 6 piercing damage, and the target must succeed on a DC 12 Constitution saving throw or be poisoned for 1 minute. While poisoned for the minute in this way, the target can't regain hit points, and the target can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns during that minute, ending the effect on itself on a successful saving throw. So once again, it's designed to keep those wounds open, prevent you from being healed, bleed you out, and weaken you. So these shock troops go in to maul and tear up the enemy and weaken them horribly. And whereupon they are just mopped up by other forces which come behind, or they quickly succumb to the hellfire which is raining down around them through spined devils or horned devils or others who are just throwing fire into the area. Meanwhile, they'll be ruled over by war devils and such who are barking orders from above or behind, and they're Inyes who just cut through, dancing their weaving sword work of death, and just tearing anybody apart who's already weakened. So they have the bearded devils have magical resistance, so they have an advantage on all saving throws against spells and other magical effects. They are steadfast and they cannot be frightened when they see an ally within 30 feet of themselves. So any other devil who is a part of their army counts as an ally, and they will just fight on, knowing that somebody's got their back. They have Devil Sight, which means that they can see through magical darkness, and their dark vision extends out to 120 feet. It is super true dark vision, and they have a passive perception of 10. They speak the Infernal languages, and they also, from now on, as you go up the ranks of devils, they all have telepathy out to 120 feet, where they can hear orders even over the cacophonous, booming sounds of battle and screaming and torment and ululations which surround them constantly. So in the midst of the blood war, the combat is deafening. So it is imperative that you have some means of communication other than sound, and telepathy is one such way they do it. So they have conditional immunities to poison, and damage immunity to poison and fire. They live in a super hot volcanic toxic fume. It's basically this is where they live, and they're completely immune to it. And their quarters, wherever they are located, will quickly become toxic to anyone around them. Everything that oozes from their bodies is poisonous. They exhale a mild toxin. they smell poisonous, and they have no problem. Like, they never clean up around themselves. Their barracks and things like that are noxious, to say the least. They have damage resistance to cold, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical weapons that aren't silvered. So that's resistance, but they're not immune to that sort of damage. And silver weapons can open them up quite nastily. They have an armor class which is natural armor of 13. However, they will wear armor quite often. So factor that in if you're not catching them unawares. If they're going into battle, they're going to be armed to the teeth and armored, clad in all sorts of infernal armor, which they've honed over millennia to fight demons. They have 52 hit points and a speed of 30 feet. They've got a strength of 16, dexterity of 15, constitution 15, intelligence of 9, wisdom 11, and charisma of 11. They are used to taking orders and being very direct in what they do. They take offense at the slightest thing, and violence is their answer to pretty much everything. There's no such thing as an intact vending machine in the halls of the Bearded Devils. So, on their attack turns, they take multi-attack, which is 2 attacks, one with its beard and one with its glaive, or it will use a glaive and some other action, such as a squad formation or aiding and assisting others. They fight in teams, never alone, unless they absolutely have no choice or are summoned alone to the mortal realm. So you will never encounter Bearded Devils who are moving around in less than a squad of 3 or 4, typically. If there's only 2 of them, that means they're stationed as guard duty in somewhere which they consider to be impregnable. Otherwise, there will be scores of Bearded Devils who are moving around together in squads. They are special forces. This is why I include pictures like this. They basically, when you look at this guy here, this is exactly what I'm talking about. They are specialist fighters who are used to basically roughing it in any sort of environment and getting the job done. So yeah, that's Bearded Devils for you. In adventures, Bearded Devils, you might occasionally find them in the mortal realms, but really, it's when you see a Bearded Devil around, you know that you're either in hell or you're in a staging ground or in some area where shit is going to go down in the blood war. So Bearded Devils get ported in en masse in huge contingents. Legions of them come in at once. And the entire environment gets ripped asunder as the blood war boils over into that dimension and turns the entire area into a noxious hellstorm as fire and poison rain from the sky upon some incursion of demons which has come through, and the devils are doing their work and taking them out. They don't care who gets in the way. They will kill anyone and destroy anything in order to take out any demons that spawn outside of the abyss. That's what they do. So yeah, when you see Bearded Devils, either make a run for it, give up, or fight. And I suggest fighting would be the best way to go, even though they're probably going to tear you to pieces. Yeah, being captured by Bearded Devils means a life, well, probably a short life of torment and torture, followed by a vicious and bleedy death, probably in a plane which is a nightmare. So yeah, that's Bearded Devils for you, and I'll be back with more in this series later on. Thanks for listening.